Welcome to Pastor's Chat. We're going to look in Colossians chapter 2 today as the Apostle Paul begins to deal with the very root of the problem that they were having there at the church of Colossae with the false philosophies and teachings of these heretics, these false teachers that had invaded the church. But before he actually gets to those points, the first thing he says in chapter 2 as we look in this chapter, verse 1, "For I want you to know how great a struggle I have for you and for those at Laodicea and for all who have not seen me face to face, that their hearts may be encouraged, being knit together in love to reach all the riches of full assurance of understanding and the knowledge of God's mystery, which is Christ." Hey, let's think on those two verses for just a few minutes here. Paul first says, I want you to know. So Paul had a message he was sharing. He had a burden in his heart that he wanted them to know about. And he said, it's a great struggle. He wrestled in this thing. It was spiritual warfare. And I believe Paul realized, if you look in Ephesians chapter 6, he realized we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but with principalities and powers and the spiritual wickedness in the heavenly places. And we need to put on the whole armor of God. So Paul is talking about these people there at Colossae and also Laodicea, a nearby city, and those others who had not seen him face to face. And he was saying, I have a struggle. So here's Paul writing for Corinth, writing from a different city, writing to these people, telling them of the struggle that he had for these people as they dealt with these false philosophies that were being taught. Paul realized spiritual warfare was going on. Now, you and I need to realize we have friends and family members and maybe others who've been caught up in false philosophies, maybe false teachings, maybe things that we know that they should not be involved in. And if we're not careful, the first thing we do is we begin to try to argue with them or talk them out of the direction they're going. Paul said, I have a great struggle within as I deal with this. And I believe he struggled first in prayer. And what he wanted was not to discourage them. He says, I want you to know, you've not seen me face to face, but my struggle is that your hearts may be encouraged. Your heart, your spirit, that innermost being, that real part of you, that soul, that personality of you may be encouraged, may be encouraged. We ought to be encouragers. Paul didn't write these letters to discourage these people, to cause more problems, but to bring about an encouragement in them and we're going to see it. We're going to see it so plainly if we don't get to it today, that their focus not be on the false philosophies of men, but on the personal person of Jesus Christ and the truths of Christ the Messiah. Being knit together in love, knit together, woven together in love. Hearts encouraged, knit together in love. And why? To reach all the riches of full assurance of understanding and the knowledge of God's mystery, so that you would come to an intimate, personal, relation with God's person in the person of Jesus Christ. God's mystery, which is Christ. The mystery of God. What is that? The mystery of God is that God Himself becomes human flesh, which is Christ. In verse 3, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. My friend, that's why in the next verse he says, and I say this in order that no one may delude you with plausible arguments. No matter what these arguments may sound like, no matter how well they might come across, how interesting, how exciting fascinating they might appear, he says, you better be careful. You do not want to be deluded or deceived by these arguments, by these false philosophers who are trying to tell you things that are not true about the person of Jesus Christ. Now, why? Because you don't need any more than Christ Himself. In Him, Christ, are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. So Paul's making it very clear from the very beginning as he begins to deal with the false philosophies, and he has 3 warnings that he gives them. Beware of false philosophies is the first one. But before he does that, he simply says, I'm praying for you that your hearts will be knit together in love. You won't be at odds, you won't be fighting, you'll be knit together in love, and you'll come to the full assurance of the knowledge of God in Christ, and you know in Him is everything you need. And I'm telling you, it's the same today. I trust that you're looking to Jesus for all that you need. God bless, and have a good day.